Hello everyone and welcome back to my YouTube channel. Today I am creating a Mother's Day card. Clean and simple as always. I am using some of my favorite things products. I'm featuring especially the special spot in my heart stamp set. This one is illustrated by Rochelle Anna Miller and I truly adore her images. If you love giraffes and you love digital stamps, definitely also check out her website because she has a few digital stamps with giraffes and they are all so adorable. So if you love this one, I know you will be in love with those digitals as well. Now for the coloring, I'm going to color both exactly the same. I'm switching up the side of the shadowing, but the markers are exactly the same principles were used for the small one. I'm just going to show you the big one and then the hearts. I think you will realize how I'm doing this, and I don't want to repeat too much as I think there is a lot out there to watch and I don't want to keep you for repetition here. So I have a few markers out here. As I said, I'm using the same colors, so the amount of markers are quite limited, and that's always handy. I remember in the beginning that I didn't had a lot of markers, and I am really happy with the amount of markers I have right now. I don't have them all yet, but it's quite expensive. So I remember in the beginning that I was watching all of those talented people and that I was like, oh, I want to use that one as well. I wrote everything down and then in the end I had one marker. What I'm showing today, this combination, it's only one of many combinations that you can use for giraffes or for other critters. I also love this combination for lions. That being said, you might have just another combination that is perfect or that another crafter is using that you might like as well. Definitely check that out because markers are expensive. The thing is, as you get more markers, or maybe if you have this combination, then you can color everything this way. You don't always need to vary in marker combinations. Personally, I love using as much of the same markers as possible. Why? Because for me it also helps with the simplicity. So that's why I try to repeat colors or combos in my cards. Okay, so Mother's Day, it's getting closer, and well, here in Belgium, but I think it's sort of worldwide, but it's the 8th of May here, and so every year it's sort of, well, a challenge to find something that my mother will like. She is really in love with Rochelle Anna Miller images, and once I got this stamp set, I thought, oh, great. So decided to use it for the Mother's Day card, but I also love clean and simple, so just to keep it a bit me, I went for this clean and simple design. Also the colors that I'm using, you might recognize them. I think the past 2 years I created a Mother's Day card with the same combination of distress inks. That's crazy. But I also think it's because whenever you're making a Mother's Day card or a birthday card for someone you specifically know and you're not making just because you have a birthday stamp, but really for a person specifically, you are trying to find things that that person likes, or at least I try to incorporate specifics that I know that the recipient will love. I try to catch them in my card. And I remember when I was little, the favorite color of my mother was a deep dark red, the Bordeaux red. And I find that these distressings that I'm going to use later on are perfect for that. Now for the sentiment, I'm going to use the sentiment from this stamp set. And then I decided to die cut Mom out of an alphabet stamp set. Now as I'm going to keep it clean and simple, I don't want to add too much to the card. I thought maybe I can use this impact alphabet from my favorite things, which is an expensive die set, I must admit, but I love it. And I bought it a while back, and actually I haven't featured it enough. So today I'm changing that. I'm using 2 letters out of them. So as you saw, originally in my head I wanted to make a vertical card. It's the card way that I prefer just because it's really sturdy, as I'm doing a side folded card base. Now that wasn't working. Well, there are options, but I think maybe a smaller alphabet there would be great. And then you can switch this again, maybe keep the same idea as here, but with a smaller alphabet, like the stitched alphabet stem set, for example. That's great. But as I decided to use this big one, I needed to turn my paper around. For the background, I have an A2 size panel. I die cut it using the basic rectangles from my elephant, but any basic rectangles, or if you can trim things down perfectly, then do that. Anything works. I'm just really bad with a paper trimmer, and well, a good basic always is useful. Now, since I like the layout, I sort of made sure to have the mom straight. I took present seal, I added it on top, rest, as the name says it, and just like that, I have all of my images and the word mom transferred on top of the present seal. Now, another thing that I like doing is to mark the corners of my panel on top of the present seal. This way, later on, when I am hanging on top of or above my panel, I know exactly where I need to add it when the adhesive is on the back of the images or the letters or anything like that. So, time for that ink blending. For the ink blending today, I am using aged mahogany and Victorian velvet. I use these quite often together, and my ink pads aren't as juicy as I would love them to be, so there was a lot of going back and forth on top of my ink pad. I'm using a blending brush. I love using them. I bought several now from many different brands. I have some pastel kind of brushes. I love them. They are from Tailored Expressions. I have some from Time for Tea Designs. I have cheap makeup brushes. I have some from Simon Stamp in rainbow colors, because that's a really lovely thing. They are also out there from Waffle Flowers, but I couldn't get my hands on them when I searched for more blending brushes. In the end, personally, I think they all work. I haven't had one brand. Oh, I also have Studio Katja, some of them. For me personally, there isn't a brand that is better than another. Maybe some of you have a preference, but if you ask me, for me, anything works, even cheap makeup brushes. But there was a whole period where people were using makeup brushes, and I personally never wear makeup except mascara from time to time, and some lipstick. But with the COVID and the mask, that was a bit, well, useless. So, as I'm not used of wearing makeup, or I have no clue how to apply it, I never had makeup brushes. And then, since crafters show that it was an option to do that with that, I bought some really cheap ones. Really cheap ones. And I loved using them. And then all of a sudden, I think the makeup industry changed their mind of how to apply makeup, but I couldn't find those cheap makeup brushes anymore, and I had to look for more brushes, so I went for the branded brushes in craft stores, and so that's how I came to having several brands. But again, personal opinion, I love it all. So whatever you have is good, whatever you can get your hands on probably will work. Okay, that being said, I applied some adhesive, but before I added it on top of the panel, just before I was lucky that I realized it, I still had to stamp out that sentiment. So I did that, and then I could add that big giraffe with the thin foam squares and the mom. The smaller one I will add as well with some thin foam squares, but just because the mom was in front, well, behind, in front, depending on how you look at it, I couldn't add it completely, I couldn't fill it completely with thin foam squares, so therefore I just waited for later on. And as you can see here, those markers that I added on the corners worked perfectly. So if you are like me, in the beginning, present seal is great, But in the beginning I had it laid out, I used the press and seal, then I had to add it back to my panel, and for some reason I added it too high or too low, and it still worked, but in my head I was like, no, I wanted it higher or lower, and I was a bit annoyed by it. And then I tried it with just marking where the corners are, and that really works great for me. So maybe that's just that tip that you needed as well, to have it completely as you want it to be. Now for the hearts, many places to add them. You can definitely color more and die cut more. I had a little smudge aside from, well, on the side of the M, so I'm just covering that with the bigger heart. Otherwise I think both hearts would be somewhere in the sky. But wow, life. And so I added those two on top. I also contemplated about adding those clouds that you can see on the left, but I actually completely forgot about them. You can definitely add them or other embellishments if you want to. I wanted to keep it clean and simple, so I didn't add anything more except for a bit of glossy accents. But even if you wouldn't like adding a lot, you could also die cut these clouds out of vellum, for example, and that would also give something great, or splatter if you want to. But I love these gradients, and sometimes a gradient is all you need. So that is my card for today. Definitely a lot of ways to make this your own, create something similar but different. You can create this as a dad card as well. I think that would be gorgeous as well. So just saying. Anyway, I hope that you enjoyed this video and that of course you got inspired in any way. Thank you so much for stopping by. I truly appreciate you all. You guys are amazing and I love you all. I wish you an incredible day, and I'll be back soon with some new craft inspiration. Bye!